Assalamu alaikum, welcome to Ahlulbayt Live Ahlulbayt special with myself, Rebecca Masterton. My guest is Sayed Mohammed Rizvi, and tonight we're going to be looking at the challenges of living with non-Muslim parents, and perhaps also the challenges that non-Muslim parents have living with their Muslim children, whether that's actually living in the same house or just living apart but still being related. And I have had quite a few people from different religious backgrounds writing to me over the years who have come into Islam, and everyone has different challenges based on the type of family that they have. So inshallah, do feel free to call in with any questions or comments about how you might resolve some of the issues that you might be dealing with, or that you know someone else might be dealing with as well. Assalamu alaikum, welcome.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you for hosting.
Thank you for coming as well and giving your time again. I suppose since we are coming up for Arba'een, one way of starting would be to think about how much emphasis there has been over the last month and a half on getting the message of Imam Hussein alayhi salam out, into the world, telling people who he was. And yet, I think that for people who have come into Islam when they have non-Muslim parents, it's actually sometimes harder to get the message across to the parents, because explaining what Imam Hussein, who he was, alayhi salam, what he stood for, will help the parents to understand what the child is following. Yet sometimes it's easier to speak to strangers about it than to speak to one's parents. And of course, every parent is different. But perhaps we could start off with, in general, how to treat parents when a child does come into Islam and is, for example, trying to explain something like Muharram to the parents. What are some of the best ways?
Yeah, a'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajeem, bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Parents have been given a lot of importance in Islamic teachings, not only in Islamic teachings. If we look at the divine religions of the world, we find that parents have been given importance to them, and especially in Islamic teachings, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala discusses importance of parents immediately after obedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and the next best responsibility or next best action that is considered is to be kind to a parent. So if you look at this, we can realize that how important it is to be kind to parents. There are narrations and there are verses of Holy Quran in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given this importance. There is a narration in which says even looking at the parent is worship, looking with kindness, not looking with annoyance or feeling agitated about them. And unfortunately, in the modern life that we have, this problem is increasing throughout the world, including Muslim world. That children are busy, they are involved with the new modern life, and they somehow consider their parent as burden, which is wrong. And actually, this is the result of how the elders had been treating their youngsters from the childhood, especially because of the modern society that we live in. The father and mother, especially at the early stages of their life, they want to earn more. The excuse is they want to earn more to educate their children, to provide better facilities for the children. And what they do, they dump the child with non-relatives and who have less feeling, sincere feeling for the children. All the rules and regulations are very strict in our society, that how a child should not be abused in nurseries and all these places, and everybody has to be checked for their criminal record and background and everything. But what does not exist there is kindness and love and emotions, sincere emotions are not there. So when a child is brought up like that, when that child grows up, he will look at his parent or her parent in the similar way, the way parent looked at him or her at the childhood. So it's a result of what they have done to their youngsters in early stages of their life, and those early stages are very important. That mother and father have to be very close, especially that stage, the first stage that is referred to in narrations and ahadith, that first 7 years of the life of children, the father and mother should be very emotionally close and attached to the child. They should, the most of the quality time that parents should spend is during this time. And when you spend this time, first 7 years of their life with them, even if you have to send them to nursery, then you have to make an effort to undo the emotional connection that you have not given during the time and period the child had been in nursery or these childminders and other places. So then you have to undo this and then re-establish your bond with your children. And if you bring them up in this way, then later on there is hope that when they grow up, they will look after you the way you look after them. And actually there are, in Islamic teachings, there are verses and there are also narrations that we should treat our children the way we should look after our parents the way they looked after us. So indirectly Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and Islamic teachings are saying that we have to be kind to our children. If we are kind to our children, they will be kind to us when we grow up and when we become elders. So, in relation to tragedy of Karbala, Imam Hussein alayhi salatu wasalam, we can see this bond that it exists between Imam Hussein and the children. Children are, small children who have not even reached the age of puberty. They understand their responsibility, their commitment to their elders, and the values of Islam, because the elders were very careful to transmit this importance into their mind at the early stages of their life, and gave importance to them that Islamic values are important, and Islamic values are the ones which teach us to respect elders. Islamic values are the ones which teach us to respect the children. And therefore, the result was that those children or those youngsters who were at the early stages of their life, they were more than willing to do anything Imam Hussein alayhi salatu wasalam wanted in Karbala.
It's a good point. Some of the viewers watching tonight may know that I was in Sweden a few weeks ago, and I have a friend there who, in fact, she's not Muslim, but she's bringing up her children. She's staying at home as a mother, and I know that things are quite, for example, in the UK, parents are quite detached from their children, and in America too, parents are quite detached from their children. People eat at different times and they don't come together. But as she was saying over there, in Sweden, it's actually the parents will put the child into daycare, 12-hour daycare, from when they're about 18 months old, 2 years old. 8 o'clock in the morning, pick them up and then they'll have 2 hours with them in the evening. And then she said the quality time they spend with their children will be the 2-week holiday in the year. And she's received actually quite a lot of criticism from the society for being there for her children at home, quite a lot of condescension. And so, this is really not sowing sort of healthy seeds for tomorrow, and perhaps if we're looking at younger people who are coming into Islam. In fact, one of the reasons why young people do come into Islam is because they don't have any family structure around them to speak of. I mean, I know of some converts who they've got quite good relations with their parents, but other times they've been brought up in surroundings where everybody's very distant, so they don't have those relations. And I guess perhaps what they may try to do when they convert is to try to cultivate better relations with the parents, but that might not always be the case. I was going to raise the point about a scenario where, for example, a parent is, as has been the case with a few people who I know, very much against the child being Muslim at all. And I think that converts have this dilemma of maintaining the silat al-raham, the good relations with the parents, but practicing, being able to practice Islam without upsetting the parent, and sometimes, or embarrassing the parents. Sometimes parents feel embarrassed if their child is wearing hijab or has a beard or something. What can you suggest? Any perhaps some kind of tips that young people could have to deal with this dilemma of trying to maintain good relations and not alienate yourself from your parents, but also practicing Islam even though the parent might not like it?
Yes, this is one of the major problems, especially for the youngsters who embrace Islam and they are still at home and they have not moved out of the home and they need their parents' support. I had cases where the father had planned a great future for the child, and the child becomes Muslim.
Right.
And they suddenly stop all financial support, all of their backing, and the child is forced to work.
Wow.
And was unable to continue the education, and so this kind of problems I have personally witnessed, and
Right.
it happens in our society. Most recently, just about a few months ago, a young sister, I don't want to name the country that she belongs to, she's European. She was mixing with the Muslim students in her class, and she noticed the Muslim girls' behavior, how they were not getting involved in boyfriend girlfriend relationship, and how they avoided clubbing and dancing, how they avoided how their moral values were high. So this attracted this young girl to these Muslim girls with hijab in the school, and who were practicing Islam properly, and they used to go to pray. And so alhamdulillah, she started to do her research and study about Islam, and then she did study about the mainstream of Muslims, which are Sunni Muslims, did the research about them and how the restrictions are there, and how and she looked at the example of how in Saudi Arabia Muslim women are not even allowed to drive. And then she witnessed the Shia Muslim girls. They were doing everything within hijab, but everything Islamic within hijab and limits. So that attracted her more towards Shia Islam, and she came to my office, and after listening to the explanations that I gave to her, she embraced Islam. And but then immediately after embracing Islam, the first problem for her was, how would I deal with my parents? How would I survive there? And then alhamdulillah, we encouraged her, and she had already been practicing hijab before becoming Muslim.
Right.
So she used to get out of the house of the parent And when she used to reach, and this is the other way around actually, some Muslim girls
That's true.
who come to this country, suddenly they see all this,
Yeah.
they want to break all the limits and go other way. But this girl who was born and brought up in a non-Muslim family, non-practicing family, she became interested in Islam. She would come out of the house and put hijab on before even becoming Muslim and go to school with hijab and everything. And then she became Muslim. So, Alhamdulillah, at that young age, she had the courage to face.
Yeah.
She said to me, my beliefs, my religion, the way I have adopted to be is more important than what my parents are telling me to be. And this is actually the advice of Holy Quran. You should obey your parents.
Yeah.
And there is an exception, and the only exception is when the parents mislead you, or the parents prevent you from practicing your belief in Islam. So this is where you should not obey them.
Yeah.
So this young girl has managed to convince by talking to them, by bringing her friends to the house, by telling them, look, you should be proud of me. I'm instead of going to clubs and all these places and mixing with drug addicts and letting my body be used by these so-called boyfriends and being dumped or become pregnant. She is mixing with people who have different moral values.
Thank you. Well, that's a positive story, and it gives, I'm sure, many of our viewers hope who might be thinking of converting or who have converted or are converting. And we're just going to go to break now. We're looking at the relations between young Muslim converts and their Muslim converts and their non-Muslim parents. And inshallah, we'll see you after the break. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back to Ahlulbayt Live Arbaeen special, and we're talking about living with non-Muslim parents and what is the best way to try to live harmoniously with parents from different religious backgrounds. And Sayed Mohammed Rizvi was just giving us an example of the girl from European girl who was practicing Islam, started to put hijab on outside the house, and as you say, she talked to her parents. She sort of took the trouble to talk to her parents. And what happened? So they accepted gradually?
Yes, she has, alhamdulillah, managed to convince them that she will be allowed to practice Islam. They have even accepted her hijab and everything.
Okay.
And she's now at the stage that they are saying that inside the house you are not going to wear hijab.
Right.
So she came and asked advice. I said, well, you should resist. If there are non-mahram in the house, then you should resist it. And you should say that this is my practice. I am an adult and I can make my own decision. And therefore, she asked us to pray for her that she is successful.
Right.
Especially now that Christmas is approaching.
Yeah.
People may not have any non-mahram in the house for whole year, but this is the time when non-mahram relatives will be at home. And she would be probably required to be at the Christmas dinner and be with others and take part in all those social gatherings and functions that are held at this stage.
And I guess, I mean, everyone's case is quite different, but you were going to also give the tafsir or the reason for the...
Actually, this is not a new problem. From right at the beginning of Islam, converts or people who embrace Islam had this problem. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had to has addressed this issue in the verses of Holy Quran, and this shows how important this issue is. There is a verse of Holy Quran where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that you should respect your parent and obey them, with the exception of there is an exception that if they ask you to disobey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then you should not disobey them. And the reason for revelation of this verse is a very important story, and according to narrations, a person called Sayed Waqqas, he became Muslim. And he did his own research and he studied Islam and he became attracted to the Islamic values and Islamic teachings, and he decided to become Muslim. After becoming Muslim, because he was aware of his responsibilities towards his parent, he started to take extra care of his mother, and he was very kind to her, but mother would not accept that her son would not accept her son to be Muslim, and she kept on placing all kinds of obstacles and restrictions, and she kept on telling him not to be Muslim. It was a daily struggle for Sayed Waqqas. And then finally, when she realized that he's not giving in, she said, okay, if you don't leave Islam, I will go on hunger strike. So, and she practically, first she threatened, and then she started. She started to refuse food and water from her son and wouldn't drink anything because he was the only one who was taking care of her. And she wouldn't take water or food from her son. One day passed, second day passed, and she was becoming weaker and weaker, and the son was not giving in. He was sincere in about Islam and Islamic teaching, so he was not giving in. Then she used emotional blackmail. She said, if I die like this, people will blame you for killing me, because I want you to leave Islam. If you leave Islam, I will start eating and drinking. If you don't leave Islam, I will die like this and everybody will blame you. So it was at this point that he had to make a very tough decision. He said, first he said, oh mother, I respect you, you are my mother, my religion teaches me to respect you, and you have a great place in my mind. And I'm practically showing that to you and I'm taking care of you. But if you die 100 times and you are given life 100 times and you keep coming back to me to leave Islam, I wouldn't leave Islam. So when she heard that kind of resistance from her son, she gave in and she stopped bothering him.
Right.
So, and it was at this point that this verse of Holy Quran was revealed, that you should obey your parent, with the exception when they ask you to disobey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this is an excellent example from the beginning of Islam, and that's what those sisters and brothers who embrace Islam should do that. And this is not only the problem with non-Muslims becoming Muslim. During last year, I had several cases of even some young brothers and sisters who had realized the importance of Ahlulbayt ﷺ, and by mixing the Shia Muslim students in schools and in the society and looking at their behavior, they had decided to become Shia Muslims, and they were expelled from their houses. And we had to find shelter for them because they were not allowed to go back to their houses. About 2 years ago, we used to have a case, similar case.
Right.
Remember a young lady used to call you.
Yes.
She was going
I remember her.
I don't know how she is, and
the good news is she got married. So I slightly lost touch with her. She was very young. Yeah, she was about she was 17. Yeah, and was coming to the path of Ahlulbayt alayhim salam, and lovely person, and it was very, very difficult.
So alhamdulillah, she's married.
Yes, alhamdulillah.
The trouble.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know too much else about it, but one thing I do know is that, alhamdulillah, she was happily married. So that's a nice, that's something nice that happened to her. But yeah, I mean, very young, and it was difficult because I remember, you know, obviously if someone is older and they're more independent, if they're in their mid-20s, for example, then it's easier to give advice. But when someone is young and they're living at home, then it's you know, you can't say to them go somewhere else. You know, you have to. It's not safe for them to go to many places.
The problem is greater when they are under 18.
Yeah.
Because they are kind of under restriction of their parent and elders, and they are sincere about their belief and faith, and they don't know what to do.
Yeah.
And this reminds me of another case. A few years ago, a young lady, only 16, she came to me and she said, I would like to embrace Islam. I said, okay. My normal procedure is that I talk to them, explain everything about Islam from A to Z, from the belief in oneness of God until the Day of Judgment, and then I discuss the philosophy of practical principles of Islam, Furu' Deen, and like why we pray 5 times daily prayers, why we fast, why we go for Hajj, and why we pay zakat, khums, amrul ma'ruf, nahy anil munkar, and everything. I explain everything to them. And then when I explained everything, she said, yes, I knew this already through my friends, but you have helped me to even be more convinced that this is the path I would like to follow. She was only 16.
Wow.
So finally, her friends were around me. They were all around 16, 17 years of age. And then she recited the Shahada in front of me. And when finally they recite the Shahada and declare that they are Muslims, I asked her, what's her name? She said, my name is Zainab.
MashaAllah.
I said, did you choose your name? No, my mom and dad gave me this name. I said, that means you are born Muslim, your mom and dad are Muslim. Yes, they are so-called Muslims who claim to be Muslim, and I have realized real Islam in my college. I mean, right. So her parents were non-practicing Muslims.
Right, yeah.
So anyway, I said, you don't need to do Shahada. Your parents are Muslim, although they may not be practicing, but you are already Muslim.
Yeah.
So anyway, because I had already issued the certificate and given it to her, and usually we give a package of gift for those who embrace Islam. Quite a valuable package, books and maybe chador and musalla and all these things. So she took this to her house. Then next day I received a call from her mother. And she started to shout, what on earth are you doing with my daughter? And I ran away from all these things, and you have brought her back to these things that I ran away from. And you're not allowed to talk to my daughter. You're not allowed to do. I said, what I have done? You should be thankful to God that she's not mixing with the wrong people. She's come back to the right path. And anyway, I calmed her down and then encouraged her to come to my office, and realized that she was born Muslim. She was not brought up properly and did not practice Islam at all.
Right.
So the daughter of a born Muslim parent comes back to Islam in this way, and then she became the source of the elders. I mean, her parent becoming more interested in practicing Islam.
This is I've seen cases of this as well, because I think this topic could also apply to exactly that, you know, younger generations starting to practice when the parents or the family are not practicing. And yeah, I mean, I remember a girl from a very secular family starting to practice, and she said, you know, one of the difficulties, as you were talking about mahram and non-mahram, she said one of the difficulties in her family was it was the custom for, you know, her to have to kiss her uncles and her cousins, and you know, to greet them in the French way, and she stopped doing that.
Well, uncles are okay.
Oh yeah, uncles. Yeah, cousins.
Cousins are non-mahram.
Yeah. So she yeah, so she was asked, I think there was family gatherings, and yeah, she was asked, you know, to greet her cousins properly, and she said, I can't, and that caused. So I think these issues are also very applicable, as you said, for example, with this, you know, young lady as well. That and I think, you know, people do, some ulama do say that a young person does need to, you know, does need to embrace Islam consciously. I mean, obviously, the child may be, you know, maybe brought up as a Muslim, but there needs to come a point in their life when they are also, you know, practicing it with awareness and consciousness, and embracing it in that way. Yeah, I mean, there was another issue that I had where, similar to a few issues, where there was a Hindu girl who came to the path of the Ahlulbayt alayhim salam. She's living at home, and of course the another issue that can come up with non-Muslim parents is the issue of marriage. Or this can come up with people who come to the path of the Ahlulbayt alayhim salam, but they're on, you know, they're from a family that's from a different school of thought. One of these difficulties is the issue of marriage, because the family will have certain plans for the daughter, or certain expectations for the daughter or the son, about who they're going to marry. I know that some women, young women, have. They actually don't know a way out, so all they do is they just delay the marriage. They just put off marriage with different excuses, like I'm not ready, or I'm studying, or I want to work, or I mean, it's not like a long-term solution. And in this case, the girl wanted her, obviously, to marry a Hindu boy. There was a Muslim boy who wanted to marry her, but she kept delaying because she was afraid of hurting them. And this is another difficulty. What can somebody do when it's a very difficult situation to be in, when you know that, you know, you haven't even managed to tell some people, they can't even tell their family, because you say they're going to be kicked out of the house or disowned, or the parents are going to be extremely upset, and then the parents are starting to kind of say, come on, it's time you got married.
Yeah, these kind of emotional blackmail goes on, and this verse was the best example.
Yeah.
That it's not a new or modern problem. This existed from early stages of Islam, and so many early converts had to go through, and some of them were even tortured.
Yeah.
And they had deprived of advantages and facilities, and I had cases where I mean, the university education was supposed to be provided. I mean, the fee for the university education was supposed to be provided by father and mother. As soon as they discovered their son has become Muslim, they stopped their support. So yes, this problem does exist, and this shows that there is a need in our community and society to have a kind of shelter and facilities for these youngsters, or even elders who embrace Islam. And there are positive stories as well. I mean, we see quite often, and actually positive stories are more.
That's good to know.
Negative ones.
That's good.
Because we have, alhamdulillah, have helped several thousand people to embrace Islam around the world. And in majority of the cases, I usually ask them, what was the reaction of your parent? And in some cases, they even come and sit in the meeting when their son and daughter is being converted to Islam. And they support them. They say, well, we don't mind. And I even asked, I remember in several occasions, I have asked the parents who were attending the meeting of conversion to Islam, are you happy for your son or daughter to embrace Islam? They said, we prefer them to be Muslim than drug addict. We prefer them to be following Islam than mixing with the wrong kind of people. So as long as our son and daughter is happy and they are not getting involved in wrong activities, we don't have any problem. But unfortunately, because of the bias media that exists against Muslims and Islam, the biggest issue at the moment is that because the biased media presents extremism or extremist view of Islam. So one of the worries of some parents whose children become Muslim is my child becoming a terrorist? Or is my child becoming a member of Al-Qaeda or something like that? So when I explained that we as a Shia Muslims are actually victims of terrorism, you would not be able to find a single suicide bomber in the Shia Muslim world. We are being targeted every single day. I mean, even now, there are millions of Shia Muslims who have gone for Arba'een. They are not bothering any of the Sunni Muslims there. They are just doing what they are supposed to do. They are showing their loyalty to Imam Hussein ﷺ. And there are many Muhibbe Ahlulbayt Sunni Muslims who are there, and they are taking part in these processions and gatherings. And this year I was quite surprised to see that many Christians from Iraq also took part in the Ashura processions, and they remembered Imam Hussein side by side with the Shia Muslims. But there are some so-called elements of these Al-Qaeda. They cannot see someone else as happy, and they are targeting. Even now, recently there was, I think, this week also there were some.
Yes, this week, I'm sure our viewers are aware of it now, there were four blasts in Karbala.
And one of them was stopped by a brave soldier. He jumped and embraced the suicide bomber, and he got killed.
Oh my God.
And so unfortunately, when the non-Muslim parent of those who are embracing Islam see this, they become worried that is my son or daughter getting into that kind of Islam that is presented by the Western media. And when I explained to them, look at the history of Shia Muslims, all our leaders were assassinated, killed and tortured.
I think this is something that's also very important to emphasize, is again the specific characteristics of this path. Because I was talking with a non-Muslim about people going and studying in Najaf and Qom and Iraq and Iran, and they said, "Oh, that sounds a bit dodgy to me." And I said, these aren't like these Wahhabi funded madrasas that you'll find around the world. I said these are long established seminaries that are teaching logic and languages, history,
even science and physics. And in the Hawza Ilmiya is now advanced, and they have all these studies.
Right. So something is basic. And this non-Muslim person said to me, said, but hardly anybody knows this. You should let them know. And so I think, communication, which is what we're trying to do, obviously, with this channel. But communication is extremely important. And I think, as you say, for the young person to differentiate or to clarify to the parents exactly what path they're following. I mean, sometimes a young person may think it's better to practice secretly and not tell the parent, and then they get found out, or they might not be very open about it with the parent, but of course that could always generate more worry.
This is what we need to do. We need to educate more. We need to try to explain what we believe. I think our centers should have more open days.
Right.
So people could come in and see what we practice. I mean, while I was in America, we used to have this. We used to suddenly have an open day and used to put posters and invite people, come and see what we are doing. There is no restriction for you. So when the most of the problems are because they are ignorant. They don't know, or their minds have been polluted by the biased media. who have the hidden agenda against
Also, you've got
Islam.
those slightly crazy groups that are saying we're going to impose Sharia on on the West, which is actually not legitimate according to Sharia anyway.
Yeah.
But I mean, I remember somebody said that their parent was, said to them, "Well, we don't want Sharia law in Britain," and they answered, "Yeah, but there's only 2 million Muslims here. How are you going to have 2 million Muslims
imposing their
enforcing this on a population of 65, close to 70 million?" So, as you say, there is this kind of alarmism, and I'd say probably this is one of the main things that young Muslims have to deal with when they are converting, is that all of the stereotypes about terrorism and Taliban, lots and lots of questions about terrorism and Taliban, and they may get quite emotional and upset sometimes. Any tips for staying calm when the parent is getting upset and the convert may feel upset as well?
Yeah, the reason they are upset or they become upset is because they don't know. You need to explain to them in a very calm manner. I mean, I know several cases where at the early stages of sisters and brothers who embraced Islam, their parents were very aggressive, very negative, very difficult, and they would put restrictions on them. But then when they saw the resistance of their child in being Muslim, and they realized that this is not the type of Islam that is promoted and propagated by the biased media, then they gave in and they accepted. I mean, for example, now it's we are approaching Christmas season.
Yeah.
Lots of parties and gatherings would be going on in the Christian families, and especially those who have embraced Islam. They are being pushed to come and take part in these gatherings and meetings.
Thank you very much. And we're just about to go to break again, and we're just discussing how to manage with non-Muslim parents as best as possible, or if you have if you can relate to this issue as a Muslim yourself from a born Muslim family, do also feel free to call in, and inshallah we'll see you in a few minutes. Assalamu alaikum, welcome back to Ahlulbayt Live Arbaeen special, and tonight we're talking about living with non-Muslim parents, and of course, especially in this day and age, a lot of Muslims can relate to this if their parents have a different way of thinking. Living with parents who have a different way of thinking from us with regard to practicing religion. So if you have any questions or comments, do feel free to call in, and we were going to, inshallah, move on to the point of Christmas. Which everyone's in a lot of countries start getting ready for Christmas around September. So I think I went down Oxford Street a few weeks ago. I think it was early November, and I noticed they already had the lights on, sort of very early on. It's trying to encourage people, I guess, to spend their money. But with regard to this, and I know this is actually a very serious issue for a lot of converts, and they will ask the ulama, on what is the best practice with regards to Christmas. Should they attend? Should they not attend? Because attending an event, does that mean that you're endorsing it as well? And is it better to keep away from it and provide maybe an alternative for your relatives? What's, first of all, from a fiqhi perspective, or what are the general sort of rulings on the permissibility of attending Christmas events?
First of all, Christmas at this time of the year, I don't think it's even a Christian.
No, that's true.
It's a pagan practice that has been Christianized.
Yeah.
So even that Christmas tree is not of Christian
Many things are not, yeah.
So, I'm really shocked sometimes that I hear this from Christians that they don't accept this having a Christmas tree and all these things as
Right.
Christian, and there are some Muslims who would like to have Christmas tree in their house and they don't want to be left behind. And all these events are, unfortunately, whether Christian or Muslim, are being commercialized.
Yeah.
And all these big companies and corporate world is trying to make everything commercialized, and they want to take advantage of these events rather than giving any value to its origins.
Yeah.
We should promote the real. I mean, there's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong to celebrate birthday of Jesus Christ. He is not only the prophet of Christians, he is the prophet of Islam as well. I mean, if we don't believe in Jesus Christ as a prophet of God, we are not Muslim.
Yeah.
One of the conditions to be Muslim is to believe in Jesus Christ and to believe in return of Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Recently, I was in Guyana, and they invited me on TV programs, on national TV programs, and we had this discussion. And because they saw me with this uniform, quite a lot of people were not aware of who we are and what is our belief.
Okay.
And when I said that we believe in Jesus Christ, the Christians started to call.
Wow.
We didn't know that Muslims believe in Jesus Christ. And when I mentioned that we also believe in return of Jesus Christ, they said, then what's the difference between you and us?
Yeah.
I said, the difference is, there is no difference. I mean, there is no difference. But you have to listen to the way we believe in Jesus Christ as well, then it may reduce the differences and bring us closer to each other.
Yeah.
Instead of, but unfortunately, the biased media is not interested in promoting this activity. They prefer to see like what's happening in Sudan, in southern Sudan.
Yes.
Muslim killing Christians, Christian killing Muslims. We are followers of divine faith. I mean, Christian, Jews, Muslims, we should be brothers and sisters.
Yeah.
Living together.
Yeah. So I mean, as you say, some Muslims. I think a lot of Muslims like the atmosphere of Christmas. I know I've spoken to quite a lot of Muslims that they kind of do a Christmas because they like the general kind of atmosphere about it. And as you say, I think another issue comes in with their children feeling left out because all the kids in the school are going to be doing Christmas, so they don't want their child to feel left out. I mean, again, I guess one of the most fundamental issues of being from a different background is the maintaining of the silat al-rahim, the blood ties.
Yeah.
And often in families today, Christmas is literally the only time in the year where the whole family is going to come together, and it's almost like a sort of, it's so wajib, we could say, that people actually have to see family members that they can't
at
stand.
the time, of course, yeah.
That they actually. So it's quite interesting that there's this kind of unwritten law that you have to see relatives even that you don't like at this time. So this may be the only time of year when someone who's come into Islam will see, will be able to maintain those blood ties. But as you say, there are lots of customs, like gift giving, and as you say, having the tree and all these kinds of things. So, can they participate in it to begin with? And if so, in what way can they participate?
Yeah. First of all, let me give, regarding the Christmas tree, give an example. I mean, a Muslim lady, called me. I said, well, I have Christmas tree around Christmas, and what I do is instead of hanging crosses, I hang crescents
Right.
and verses of Holy Quran around the Christmas tree. So is that okay? I said, first of all, even the Christians don't believe this is a Christian practice. So why on earth
Yeah.
you are insisting to
Islamize something
Islamize
that's,
something
yeah.
which is not even Christian?
Yeah.
So we don't have any problem with Christianity. We believe in Jesus Christ as a prophet of Islam, son of Mary. But even the Christians say that this is not a Christian practice.
Yeah.
And secondly, the issue of attending family gatherings, there is no doubt that, as you mentioned, that we have to keep establishing blood relations with our family members,
Yeah.
whether they are Muslim or not Muslim, as long as the Islamic limits are not
Yeah.
broken. So if that is the case, I remember one case, a lady was insisted to come to Christmas parties, and the parent say, well, we understand that you have become Muslim, but this is the only time you can meet the whole of, as you mentioned, all
Yeah.
family members, and you have to come. So she said, okay, I have become Muslim, I have got children, I'm teaching my children that this alcohol business and all this
Yeah.
is not right. And if I bring my children to this gathering, I'm committing sin according
Yeah.
to my religion and belief. And why do you have to associate alcohol with this gathering? If you love me as your daughter, then do something to accommodate me with this Christmas party, and then I wouldn't mind to come. And they say, well, we can't get rid of alcohol from the Christmas. I said, well, then you will get rid of your daughter.
Yeah.
So then the agreement was that this daughter who had become Muslim wouldn't go to Christmas meeting or
Right.
gathering, and they would have fun, I mean, according to
Yeah.
them. And then they come and go and meet each other after Christmas or
Right.
before Christmas.
Right.
So, and there are parents I know who have accommodated their Muslim children into this Christmas gathering, kept the family together.
Right. Right.
So what they do, they even bring halal food. They don't drink alcohol,
Yeah.
and they are together as a family. They respect the boundaries and limits. Like cousins don't hug and kiss each
Yeah.
other, and uncles are okay. I mean, I mean, they do this, and they have their children in the same meeting and gathering.
Yeah.
So
It's possible with some
it
negotiation.
is possible. We should not give in to this unless they agree.
Right. Thank you very much.
And according to Islamic teaching, sitting at the table where alcohol is being served is not permissible for Muslim.
Yeah.
So if this is happening, like nowadays, also Christmas parties are going on in offices, and Muslims are invited to be there. And if they don't go, they have problems. But there are many employers who are giving concessions, and they are actually having the Muslim staff there by giving the concessions to them, like having a separate table without alcohol.
Yeah.
Like international meetings. I mean, there are many Muslim leaders who take part in international conferences and meetings, and they are taken care of. I mean, I personally went to in a high-level political meeting and gathering, and they asked us what are the requirements, and we explained that we will come, we will be taking part in the dinner and everything, but we would not like alcohol and all these things to be presented to us, and there should be an area where we can sit with you, but at that part of the table, the alcohol is not there, so we could be there. And the Jews do the same thing. I mean, they insist for their kosher meal, and there was a Jewish rabbi. There was a rabbi who was sitting next to me, at the table, and his package of meal was especially packed and brought in placed in front of him. He actually opened it in front of us, and his meal was totally different to ours.
Right, okay.
Our restriction was only no alcohol and vegetarian or seafood.
Yeah.
So we ate and took part in this meal in that way, and the Jewish were actually more strict than Muslims.
I mean, nowadays, of course. We've got a caller on the line. We'll take this. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam, sister. How are you?
Alhamdulillah. I hope you're well.
And assalamu alaikum, Maulana.
Assalamu alaikum.
Yeah. Now, my question regarding, I've been listening to this discussion. It's very interesting. Now, regarding the Christmas tree, I mean, if you see, that has become traditional in Christianity, whether we like it or not. Most of the Christians who are probably not even aware of the Christianity, but it's something that they do it's their practices.
Yeah.
Now, if you see in Islam as well, there are so many practices which are not Islamic. It's a traditional which is borrowed, like things like niqab, if I'm not mistaken. Naturally, Maulana is going to correct me there.
Yeah.
Now, people do wear something like that, which is nothing to do with Islam. I mean, it's been borrowed from the Islamic things. And there are so many other things. In India as well, people who are converted from Hinduism to Islam, they have got a lot of customary things from Hinduism into Islam.
Yeah.
Like Muslims celebrating Diwali.
I don't know whether, Maulana, that would be something that would bring, because I think we want to bring the people near to us rather than differentiating that we don't do that or we don't do that. As a Muslim, I think if we are flexible and bring the brothers nearer to us, and once they can start coming to our Eid as well. I mean, when we were in Africa, there was no discrimination. When there was a Diwali, we used to celebrate with them.
Right.
Yeah.
When there was a Eid, they used to come and celebrate with us. And I think by doing that, you are cutting the tension there between two communities. So I think probably, I mean, this is my point of view. Naturally, Maulana might be able to say more things about it. Now, another thing, what I wanted to say, this bringing the educational thing, don't you think it is probably even better to get our own problem within the Islam to sort this thing out, rather than, because there is more tension between the Muslim and Muslim rather than anybody else.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll just make it very quickly. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
I had this one Wahhabi guy who is living within my area, and he was completely anti-Shia, totally anti-Shia. But I used to salam him all the time when I saw him, but he never replied. But I kept on doing it. And one day, he just happened that we started talking, and I said, I do salam, and it's wajib on you to reply.
Yeah.
You are losing out on your sawab as well. And he said, no, you Shias are this, you Shias called the Imams to Kufa, you invited him, and you got him killed and everything. I said, look, brother, if that was the case, say you are right, then the Shia should be supporting Yazid. Because Yazid slaughtered the Imam. So how can you say that we send lana to Yazid, and you are saying that we are a part of it? So you see, by that discussion, I mean, started getting more nearer, and he accepted the argument. Anyway, thank you so much for listening to me.
Thank you. Yeah, that's a point that the issue of flexibility.
Flexibility within Islamic limits is okay. I mean, we are not saying that Muslims should not go to Christmas parties. They should go, but they should have, they have the right to tell this is what I cannot and this is what I can.
Yeah.
And in this way, yes, we can mix with each other, we can take part. And there's no doubt that, yes, Christmas tree doesn't mean anything to them. It just has become a symbol
Yeah.
of something.
Well, I think it looks pretty. I think that's the main thing.
Yeah.
People just like the decorations.
Decorations. As this Muslim lady, as I mentioned, instead of putting crosses, she puts verses of Holy Quran and crescent around the Christmas tree. But to just be closer to others and invite them to Islam by this behavior, yes, we can invite others to Islam by. I mean, let me give you another example. A Hindu lady became Muslim.
Yeah.
She sincerely embraced Islam, and then she got married to a Muslim,
Right.
as well. And then her parents were not happy first. Later on, they agreed with the decision of their daughter.
Okay.
But then they insisted that she should have a Hindu wedding as well.
Right.
So the young Hindu lady who had embraced Islam, she said, "Okay, I will have to ask my imam or the leader." And she came and said, "As long as you're not doing anything un-Islamic,
Right.
taking part in celebration and this and that, and making your parents happy without disobeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it should be okay." I said, "Well, my real marriage, I am a Muslim and my husband is Muslim. We have done the Islamic marriage. To her, that matters more than just simple ceremony that they want to do." Apparently, they go around the fire. I said, "Are you worshipping that fire? Are you at all saying that this is God?" And I said, "No, she's not doing that. She's just trying to please her parents, but not obeying them in the wrong practice."
Actually,
so she did it, and that's fine.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, again, as I think I remember the famous narration where a companion of Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam said, I've migrated to a completely non-Muslim area. I'm the only Muslim here. And if I die, I think that was that issue, wasn't it? He said, if I die, I might even be buried in a non-Muslim ceremony. And the Imam said, "Do you tell the people about us and about Islam?" He said, "Yes." He said, "So stay there and tell the people about us." And I think that is one.
Even if you are buried as a non-Muslim, you have died the death of shaheed. This is the words that.
Right.
So this is what Imam said. So yes, we have to pass the message. And the best way of doing tabligh and passing the message is by body language. Not by words. Prophet Muhammad used to say, "Invite people not with your tongue, invite them with your behavior." So if we are kind to them, they will be kind to us. And while I was in America, I used to regularly go to the churches and take part in the ceremonies and gatherings, and that used to encourage them to come to our center. And I remember when I went to a church and then invited the church leader to come to our center in Dua Kumail. And we did the presentation of Dua Kumail on these screens with the translation. And he was so happy to. He said he has never heard a supplication so complete. It touches everything, and he did not find anything that could not be that could be against his teachings. He said, "Can you please give me the translation?" And he used to read parts of that Dua Kumail in his services.
Inshallah. I mean, actually, for example, that's brought up the issue of funerals because, ironically, my own grandparents were atheists, but they both had a Christian burial. So this is like sort of the kind of mind-boggling sort of strangeness that goes on. I suppose it's like in Holy Quran where again it says people follow certain practices because their fathers did it. So, although I mean, God knows best what their belief was because they never spoke about it. But pretty much, I'm pretty certain they were atheists. But they had a ceremony where hymns were sung, and and I just didn't sing the hymns. So you know, you have to stand up, and everyone else is, and I'm you know, I've got family members next to me who also don't believe in anything. So I've got this bizarre scenario with a grandparent who didn't believe in God having Christian hymns sung at their funeral, Christian hymns sung by people who also don't believe in God, and a Muslim there who's not going to sing the hymns because of, you know, not affirming the words in the hymns. So
some of the hymns are not un-Islamic.
no, it's where
you could be silent on that part.
Yeah. I think some
you
of
could
the
sing the rest.
Yes, some of the words you can say, and some of them, you know, you don't say. So, and I guess that's the issue is to make the best of the situation that you find yourself in, and I guess it's a sign of the day and age we're living in, where people are still carrying out customs, and they don't know any longer why they're carrying out customs.
All we need to do is take part in these gatherings and set our boundaries. I mean, I was invited in one of these funerals of a relative who were non-Muslim, and then we attended because she was related, so we were invited. Although the parents, they were all Christians, but then they cremated the body,
right?
Which is totally against the Christian teachings.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember even discussing with the church leader who was going to lead the service for cremation. I said, "Is that according to Bible?" And the church leader agreed that it is against the teachings, but the children of the deceased person are insisting that the body should be cremated. So this was very strange for me to see that the church leader, who does not believe in cremation, is listening to the wish of the children.
This seems to be sort of the general practice today.
So you were other way around. That your parents were not
my grandparents.
Grandparents were atheists.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
And then they had a Christian service.
Yeah. So yes, but anyway, I suppose. I suppose in a way it's a sign that even if you're an atheist, you still need a ceremony to leave this world.
Yeah,
you know, because they could have said, "Well, I'm atheist, so just put me in a garbage bag and put me in the dustbin," you know, or just bury me in the back garden, or you know, just cremate me. But there had to be some kind of ceremony.
Service, yeah. And I was invited in one of these services. I mean, as I mentioned, and they usually have, after the body was cremated, they go to a restaurant and they drink.
We're going to have to cut in a minute.
Yeah.
Could you quickly?
Yeah, they drink. So we didn't take part in the drinking bit. We stood on the one side.
Okay, that's great. Thank you very much. A few solutions, and inshallah, I will be back on Saturday. Assalamu alaikum.